After months, I have finally done it. I have watched every Oscar movie, asterisk. I haven't seen the documentaries or any of the shorts, but I have seen all of the feature films that are nominated for this year's Academy Awards. And now that I have seen all of them, it is my duty and my privilege to give you my predictions for who's gonna win and who I would like to win, even when those are two different things. As you can see here, I've got two versions of this Vanity Fair Oscar ballot page up. Up here I've got labeled my favorites, and up here I've got labeled win predictions. Now, if I scroll down here, it starts with the big stuff. It starts with Best Picture. I want to go all the way to the bottom because Best Picture, that should be saved for last, right? And then I've got the shorts here, which I'm going to skip because I haven't seen those. So let us begin with Best Visual Effects. So our contenders are The Creator, Godzilla Minus One, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Napoleon. Now, any of these could win. I think out of all of these, the one that has an oversized chance of winning relative to how much work was put into it is Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One had a budget of only $15 million. So its special effects show that, but also the fact that it was made for $15 million and it looks as good as it does, I think that probably speaks quite a lot. Yeah, Quinn, Godzilla Minus One got nominated. I think this is its only nomination for Best Visual Effects, but you know, the technical awards are usually where the big blockbusters go. Although, as we're going to see this year, there were actually some major blockbusters that got a lot of nominations, like, for instance, Oppenheimer and Barbie. But for this, let's talk a little bit about the special effects each. So, Napoleon. Napoleon is probably my least favorite movie at the Oscars. Ridley Scott is kind of phoning it in on this one, but I can understand why it got nominated, because at no point really in the movie does it look like there are VFX. I watched the Battle of Waterloo and didn't realize that they were using VFX. I didn't think it looked that great because it looked like it was shot very practically, but that isn't that kind of the point. Is that here I'm watching this big battle scene thinking they did it all practically and just thinking the cinematography was a little off, when in reality they, you know, built the rest of the shot around the kind of okay cinematography to, you know, duplicate all of the armies and everything like that, and I couldn't tell. So like that's a good positive for Napoleon. But that doesn't mean Napoleon's going to win. We've got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Honestly, it's been so long since I saw this one, like I wasn't even doing movie reviews on my channel when this one came out. So this is like the only one of these movies that I haven't even given a review for. And Marvel movies, I kind of want not to win just on principle of how Marvel treats the industry. The VFX look good in it, but it is a Marvel movie. So there's that. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, I'm trying to think of the big sequences. They had the one where Tom Cruise drives a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachutes onto a train, which they mostly did practically. Tom Cruise like actually learned motocross and base jumping in order to pull that one off. But they still used CGI because they had built up like a little ramp for it. But like that's the more obvious CGI that I can think of. There was also a sequence where like there's a big train derailment. And like, you know, it's the kind of VFX that you would expect for a big box office blockbuster popcorn film, right? Quinn says, I remember how much press the Oscars did for Mission Impossible. You feel like they might give it to Mission Impossible? Well, I haven't really paid attention to the press surrounding the Oscars. It's entirely possible that they give it to this one, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it. And that brings us to The Creator, which honestly, I think the VFX for the robots in The Creator looked really good. Like here you can see the guy here where there's like, you know, he's got a human face, but he's a robot and you can actually like see through his head there. There's a little hole there, and like when it's angled right, you can see everything behind it. And I thought all of that looked really good. So for my pick, who I think is gonna win, honestly, I think Godzilla Minus One has a really good shot at winning. I'm going to pick that one. Now, I'm picking for the predictions first because, as you see, once I clicked that, it shows me what everybody else who's voting thinks. And so I don't want that to influence my prediction. So I'll do the win prediction first, and then I'll go to my favorite. And I would say for my favorites, this is really hard, but I think I'm also just going to give that one to Godzilla Minus One. Yeah, sure. Let's root for Godzilla Minus One. I think it'll probably win. Leftist Alice says, the crazy thing about the creator is that all of it was painted out. They had no trackers or suits. That sucks for the VFX team. I'm sorry. Like, that's incredible that they did that. That's really shitty of the filmmakers to not do any of that. That really sounds like one of those things where, like, they need to have VFX workers on sets to tell them, hey, here's all the ways that you can make this easier for us. Yeah. All right, moving on. We've got Best Sound, and the nominees are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. And I already know what my pick is for Zone of Interest, but I can't click it yet because I need to go through and make my prediction, because my prediction might be very different than my pick. I really don't remember the sound design on The Creator. It's been a while since I saw that movie, but, like, you know, it's a blockbuster film. They often give this award to your big blockbuster movies, the technical awards, because you're typically going to have a lot more sound creation in those movies rather than, like, your more drama Oscar bait stuff, which is just going to use natural Foley. But yeah, I really don't remember much about the sound in The Creator. Maestro, see, it's best sound but not score. And I guess Maestro wouldn't really qualify for best score because it's best original score, and all of the score for Maestro was literally just Leonard Bernstein songs, so none of it's original. But I don't really remember much on the sound there. Mission Impossible is another obvious choice just because it is a you know, an action blockbuster. The Zone of Interest is I talked quite extensively about this movie in my review, but I don't know how much I talked about the sound. So the premise of the movie is that it's set right on the outer gate of Auschwitz, that the administrator of Auschwitz has built this beautiful home with a garden with his family, and right on the other side, the Holocaust is happening. And you never see the prisoners. You only hear them. And there's really good layering of sound to make you hear just enough. Actually, the movie starts without, I think it has like 2 or 3 minutes of just pitch black, where all you're hearing is noises. And it's mixtures of noises of nature sounds with like more growing, intense, uncomfortable noises. And there are multiple points that the film does this. So I think Zone of Interest is a very strong pick. But then we also have to talk about Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer really sold itself on the Trinity test. You know, the when they blew up their first nuke. And I remember feeling underwhelmed by the Trinity test. I remember thinking that not so much in the sound effects, but like in the VFX, that the explosion seemed underwhelming. And I saw the film in Dolby, which, you know, has a really good sound system. Now, I know it's not IMAX, but still, I think my local theater, the Dolby sound system is actually better than in the IMAX screen. And I remember feeling underwhelmed by the sounds, too, for the Trinity test. I think Oppenheimer has a good shot at winning, but I don't think it deserves it. And I also think the Academy is probably more likely to give it to Zone of Interest as well. So I am going to predict Zone of Interest. Now, obviously, Oppenheimer is going to be the clear favorite for, this is a, you know, it's an online poll, so most people saw Oppenheimer versus these others, and that very well could be, like I said, this is kind of, I think, a coin flip between predicting Zone of Interest and Oppenheimer. But Zone of Interest is not just my prediction, it's also my personal pick. So far, we're matching in personal pick and prediction, but let's see if we run into something else. Best Production Design. So this category used to be called Best Art Direction, but they changed it I think in 2012. So our 5 nominees are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Right off the bat, I'm going to disqualify Poor Things because so many of the sets are virtual, and I'm not inclined to give Best Production Design to something that would be more likely to go to Best Visual Effects, which it wasn't even nominated for. So I don't think Poor Things is getting this one. Napoleon, I don't think so either. Napoleon is visually a pretty boring movie, and anything, creative in it, like I know it's also nominated for Best Costume Design, but that's not something that I can consider here. What we're talking about here is the artistic, like, set design and art direction and stuff like that, right? I don't think Napoleon is going to get there. So it's between Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Oppenheimer. And I also don't think it's going to be Oppenheimer, which means it's Barbie and Killers of the Flower Moon. And let's be real, when we're talking about Best Production Design, what is everyone going to think of? That Barbie caused a global shortage of pink paint when they built their sets. So even though they, built things out, like they didn't build every single set, but the VFX that they designed made it look like the extensions of the sets were just like the ways that you would practically do set extensions. The Barbie sets looked phenomenal. Killers of the Flower Moon, I think, could have a solid case for it, but I really think Barbie's going to get this one. As for my pick, I also think Barbie for this one. Yeah, I think I would pick Barbie. Barbie was phenomenal. Napoleon getting nominated for anything has big Don't Look Up energy. Was Don't Look Up not that popular? I watched that movie recently, but I didn't watch it when it had first come out and when it was getting all the buzz. So I don't know if you're referencing something where, like, it had a lot of hype, but Don't Look Up was nominated for Best Picture. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I can understand that one. Well, also Best Picture, since they expanded it out to 10 categories, they can throw things on there that really don't deserve to be there. Leftist House says I liked Don't Look Up. I liked Don't Look Up too. It was the guy who's done The Big Short and Vice, Adam McKay. Yeah, Adam McKay. So it has a very Adam McKay feel to it as a film. That kind of, ensemble piece satire. It was good, but like Best Picture as well. Well, and it didn't win Best Picture, right? So anyway, next category, we've got Best Makeup and Hairstyling. Now, right off the bat, I have to disqualify 2 of these. If either of these win, I will be very mad. And that's the top 2, Golda and Maestro. Golda, this is its only nomination. I thought this might be what it would get nominated for, but even then it doesn't deserve it. Helen Mirren has 50 pounds of latex on her face to resemble Golda Meir, and in so doing, she cannot move her face. She cannot emote. And they make it doubly bad because at the very end of the movie, they show real archival footage of Golda Meir, who has a very animated face, and so you can just tell it's like, oh, why did you do this? There's also the case that Helen Mirren is not Jewish, and so she's wearing very heavy Jew face, basically. And that's kind of the problem with Maestro, too, because while I think the makeup was more tastefully done for Bradley Cooper, as Leonard Bernstein, he's wearing a fake nose, and Leonard Bernstein is also a Jew. So it's 2 movies here nominated for Best Makeup for people playing Jews who aren't Jews. So I really don't think either of them should get this. Which means we've got Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer is here just to pad its number of nominations. When I think Best Makeup and Hairstyling, I'm not just thinking of period pieces. I'm looking for that little extra edge. I remember years and years ago being very upset that Suicide Squad beat out Star Trek Beyond for this category specifically, because, well, Star Trek Beyond had a whole bunch of fantastic characters, fantastic alien designs, whereas Suicide Squad had Margot Robbie in pale makeup. Granted, Suicide Squad also had Killer Croc, and that was probably more so what they were looking for. But generally, when I think of this category, I'm not just thinking in terms of, oh, they got the period piece makeup. Quinn says, the good Suicide Squad or the bad Suicide Squad? The bad Suicide Squad. Yeah, I know, Left SL. I can't believe Suicide Squad won an Oscar. It was, I remember it was a joke for a while. It's just people were referring it to as Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad. Anyway, Oppenheimer, like I said, it's just a period piece. The makeup is period accurate, but it's nothing special. People have been making period pieces in Hollywood since periods existed. So that feels like very, rote. Next up, we've got Society of the Snow, which, I'll be real, the makeup didn't really stand out to me in this movie. I was probably more focused on the fact that they were eating people the entire movie and not really paying as much attention to the makeup, but it didn't leave an impact on me. At some point, I am going to pick a prediction that is different from my personal pick, but right now, we are in the same thing. Poor Things is my prediction for which one's going to win it. And it looks like it's most people's. It's got 53%. And it's also my personal favorite. Poor Things uses makeup in a big way to tell Emma Stone's character's story, because the premise is that she is a Frankenstein's monster who has a baby's brain put into the head of an adult woman, and it's about her rapidly going through all of the stages of being a child to becoming a woman, and they used the makeup to tell that story in various ways, because early on, she's not even wearing makeup. They made the deliberate choice to shoot her sans makeup, because as a toddler, you wouldn't be wearing makeup. And I thought that was a very interesting choice. And so, yeah, I think Poor Things is going to be my pick for a lot of these. But yeah, I think that's it. Next up, Best Film Editing. Now, I've got a bit of a problem with this one in that I am not a film editor. I took a video production class in high school, and I edit my stream segments for YouTube uploads, but that's about the extent of my editing. Like the most like actual traditional style editing that I have done was when I produced a music video for that high school class, which was 20 years ago. So I am not an expert on editing by any stretch here. Quinn says the Oscars are such bad judges at editing. Yeah, I imagine that's probably the case. But anyway, our nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Okay, so, like I said, I'm not an expert on editing. I can give thoughts generally. Holdovers is a very traditionally shot and edited film, and by traditionally, I mean that they went to extensive lengths to make this look like a movie that was not just set in the early 70s, but had been made in the early 70s. So if there is any awards to be given to this for editing, it would be in keeping the pacing of the movie feeling like it is an art house movie from 1971. Anatomy of a Fall. Some of my, if we're talking about editing, honestly, probably some of these observations from my end would tie into cinematography as well. But there was a repeated choice in the film to show us characters using in-universe cameras. So like we would, because it's a courtroom drama, we would see things from like a news camera filming. But in other movies, you might like look at the viewfinder on a camera to be like, okay, that's how we're watching what a camera sees. But in this film, it was just using the actual footage from that in-universe camera. And because of the way it's edited, because of the shot lengths, it doesn't immediately tell you that that's what you're looking at. It lets the shot last just long enough that you can pick up the context clues for that. And I thought that was an interesting editing choice. Killers of the Flower Moon. Likewise, in terms of editing choices by letting shots linger. Every time there is a murder scene in Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese did his best to not glamorize it and not like punch it up. And the editing really reflects that, because every single murder scene is a single take and it just lets it linger. A lesser editor would throw in reaction shots and, alternate coverage and stuff. But in this film, every murder is just presented with a fairly static shot that is uncut. And that's an interesting choice. Oppenheimer is edited like a Nolan film. I think the way that the different narratives, both, in the future, later in his life, as he's being investigated, much later in his life, while there's the Senate confirmation hearing for Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and then earlier when he's working on the Manhattan Project, each of those stories is weaved together in the editing pretty well. I could definitely see an argument for Oppenheimer winning this one. And for Poor Things, like I said, I'm not an editor. I can't really say that it stands out to me from an editing thing. I think it's probably going to be Oppenheimer that gets this one, so I'm going to pick Oppenheimer. And for my personal pick, I'm going to say Killers of the Flower Moon. So there we are. There's my first split. Next up, Best Costume Design. We've got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. Now, right out the gate, Napoleon, what are you doing here? Who invited you? Do you even go here? It's a period piece set around the French Revolution, kind of one of those eras that we've got a lot of movies on. And so a lot of the costumes in this movie really look like they could have just grabbed them from any warehouse in Hollywood that's got, period costumes, and they could have just done that. If they made them all by scratch, that's impressive, but they wouldn't even need to. Oscars leveled as period pieces for costume design? Yeah, Quinn, they really do. But no, Napoleon doesn't deserve any Oscars here. Definitely not this one. Oppenheimer, likewise, what are you doing here? They're just padding your nominations out. But okay, you got a bunch of dudes in 3-piece suits and hats because it's set in the 40s. Wow, that's great. You put the tailors in Hollywood to work there, but okay, everyone's just yeah, no, that one shouldn't get it either. Barbie, that's an obvious choice, right? Because it's Barbie. Barbie's a fashion doll. Of course, you're going to have all sorts of really fun, vibrant, elaborate costumes for the characters. So this is a very obvious pick that it could be that. We've also got Killers of the Flower Moon. Let's see, it's Jacqueline West. I'm actually going to look her up because I wonder is she Osage? Because I know that Jacqueline West, costume designer, she doesn't, I don't even know if she is here. Let me look her up on Wikipedia. Oh, she's queer. Okay. I know that they had Osage natives working on some of the costumes for that. She's not Osage, but they did have Osage costumers for the film to get some of their outfits looking very authentic, and they did a really good job in that one. So that one could also get it. And then there's Poor Things, which does a fantastic job of making all of these really interesting and outrageous costume choices for Emma Stone that really kind of tell the story of where she is at. So many of the visual choices in this movie are done to help build and tell the story of who she is at that moment in her life. And that's a really good one for that. But as for which one's going to win, I think it's very easily going to be Barbie. As for which one I think should win, I want to say Poor Things. But I could also easily go for Killers of the Flower Moon. Both of these are really good. I'm also not opposed to Barbie winning. I just, I think Poor Things did it better. Best Cinematography. Okay. All of these, with one exception, deserve this win. And the one exception is El Conde. I watched El Conde the other day. I didn't much like it. And it's a black and white film, and if you're doing a black and white film, the one thing that you should probably make sure that you've got right is the lighting for a black and white film, so that you have good contrast between the blacks and the whites, particularly in dark scenes, which this movie does not do. Like, that's like your biggest job, and they don't do it. So El Conde, no. El Conde, you are just here so that Netflix can say we got a nomination. Killers of the Flower Moon, it's a Scorsese film. The cinematography is amazing. Like I was talking about in the editing category, there are scenes where big, wide shots, kind of like very neutrally presented, almost like a documentary style, like a nature documentary style footage of the murders, because it just wants to present them without panache, without flair. Just, you have to sit there with the reality of what it means to murder somebody. Really, really good cinematography here. Really good choice. Maestro might get this one. Maestro did an incredibly clever thing with its cinematography in that every era that it's set in, it uses the film language of that era. So at the beginning of the movie, it's black and white, it's in 4:3, and the characters are all framed and talk like they're in a movie from the 40s or 50s. As the movie continues on into future eras, as it starts getting into color, it starts getting like Technicolor color grading until you get into the 80s and we start getting more natural colors and everything like that. So the visual storytelling in Maestro is probably like in terms of like utilizing historical film language to get you in that era. That was a really clever choice for that, and I think Maestro could get it just for that. Oppenheimer has the kind of cinematography that you would expect from a Nolan film, which is good. Nolan films have great cinematography, but it's when I come into a movie and say, well, this is what I would expect, that's not like a ringing endorsement of like, oh yeah, no, like it's like saying, I know John Williams is nominated here for something, but it's kind of like saying, oh, of course John Williams got nominated for an Oscar, you know? So, and then we've got Poor Things. Poor Things was a very vibrant film. I almost actually want to dock it points, though, because of the extensive use of virtual sets. Or even if they weren't fully virtual sets, there was a lot of, you know, just CGI backgrounds that were obviously and intentionally CGI because they wanted to give like a heightened storybook view of the world around. So like, that's not necessarily a negative. It's just, when I think of cinematography, I tend to mentally discount stuff that's very obviously VFX. Even though VFX is a part of cinematography, it is a part of cinematography should be everything that you're seeing on screen, right? Like the shot composition and everything like that. That is kind of what it means, but generally when I think of cinematography, I'm thinking of what the camera itself actually films, not what was thrown in post, right? So I don't think it's going to be Poor Things. I think it's probably going to go to Oppenheimer because it's a Nolan film and that seems like Oppenheimer's going to sweep a lot of them. But my pick for which one I think should get it is Maestro. Okay, now, best song, best original song. I can't play these for you. You'll just have to go and look them up yourselves. And two of these are from films that I didn't watch because, like, I don't need to see a movie if its only nomination is best original song. All I have to do is listen to the song. And even though I went to college for music theory, that was a long time ago, and I'm rusty, so I don't think I am the best suited person to actually talk about the intricate details of each song here. K-Fish, you gotta sing them? No. But I will point out a notable absence. Barbie has two songs nominated here. I'm Just Ken and What Was I Made For? And I can't help but notice that neither of those are Dance the Night by Dua Lipa. And disco has been disrespected for long enough, and I'm not gonna fucking take it anymore. It deserves its spot here. Kick off I'm Just Ken. Which is, I say kick off I'm Just Ken, but like, unironically, I think I'm Just Ken it probably is going to be the one that wins it. Like, just talking about all of these others, I'm going to click that one. Even though it seems like it's more popular that the Billie Eilish one, What Was I Made For, is going to go for it. I just think it was such a big meme one that I think a lot of people are going to vote for it. Kind of like how Margot Robbie didn't get nominated, but Ryan Gosling did. Like, I think just kind of because of that, I'm Just Ken is the most likely winner. Most of these songs are very traditionally written kind of pop songs, or like maybe pop song is the wrong term. They all sound like they were written to be best original song at the Oscars, with one exception, which was Jache, a song for my people from Killers of the Flower Moon. And that's the one that I want to get it, because all of these other ones just sound like they were made to be best original song, whereas Wajashi, a song for my people, sounds like an authentic Osage song. It has its own cultural styling that is wholly divorced from the Western canon of music theory, and for that reason, I think it's a very interesting choice. And we are all living on stolen land, and that movie was kind of a whole lot about that. So I think we should give them at least something. Next up, we've got Best Original Score. Oops. Come on. Stop moving. My scroll wheel's a little loose. Okay. Now, and I mentioned earlier, John Williams is here for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and I'm going to say that I don't care how good the soundtrack for that movie was, because it sounded like an Indiana Jones movie. So, like, sure, Indiana Jones has great music, but also, like, we've heard it before. And also, John Williams has more Academy Awards than any other person in history. So he doesn't need another one. So no, John Williams, you don't get this one. American Fiction, I'm going to be real, I don't remember the music for it. I saw it, but the music was just kind of It didn't stand out to me. And if it doesn't stand out, I don't think I can say that it deserves to get Best Original Score. Quinn says he can't have another one of the treat. No, he can't. He has more than anybody else. He doesn't need it. It's time to let somebody else win one. Killers of the Flower Moon, like I was saying with Wajashi, honestly, it's been a while since I saw it. And aside from that, like, I'm trying to remember how much of the music was more traditional or more native inspired. It's been a while. But the two that really stand out to me, first, Poor Things by Jerskin Fendrix, a very unique, very dissonant, string plucky kind of a thing that just gives it that really bizarre, otherworldly vibe that Poor Things was going for. It's certainly the most unique out of any of the soundtracks, out of any of the scores here, but let's be real. It's going to Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer without Ludwig Göransson's score is a B+ at best. It is 3 hours of dudes talking in rooms, sitting around, and that soundtrack has you invested in every single line of dialogue. Everything seems so important. Everything is so intense and in your face, and it's all on Ludwig Göransson. And a lot of people wanted to give this one credit to Hans Zimmer, because it's Christopher Nolan, so of course Hans Zimmer did the thing. No, this was Ludwig Göransson, and he deserves this one. So he's my pick as well. Best documentary feature, as I said, I haven't seen the documentary, so let's move on to Best Animated Feature. Kirim says, Dance the Night is very generic, and I'm a Dua Lipa fan. I also can't stand BE. I don't know. I really liked Dance the Night. Admiral Paco says, sorry to make a correction on John Williams. He has the most nominations for a living person, not most awards. Oh, who has the most awards? Left as Hell says, Hans Zimmer has lost the sauce. Hans Zimmer can do good things. I imagine it has to do with how much lead time he's given. But yes, I have seen things where it feels like he's in his Danny Elfman era. Danny Elfman used to be like my favorite composer back in the day, back when I still liked Tim Burton movies. But Danny Elfman kind of fell into a rut and was just, haven't liked anything from Danny Elfman in decades. Admiral Paco says, Dennis Murin for a living person with 9. I don't even know who Dennis Murin is. He's probably a producer, right? Leftisal says his last good score was Interstellar. Interstellar is a good score. I would need to see what he's done since then. Walt Disney had 22. Holy crap. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, Best Animated Feature. We've got 5 choices. And first off, it's not going to be Elemental. Elemental, you're a Pixar film, so of course you were going to get nominated, but like you aren't winning this one. This is a thanks for participating. You're Pixar, so of course we're going to mention you. Robot Dreams I recently just reviewed, and it's not going to win because nobody's seen it. Even though it is a really good film. When it comes out, I highly recommend you all see it. It's a very sweet movie, but it's not going to win. So that means it's between these three. The Boy and the Heron, Nimona, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And all three of them would deserve this win. I don't think it's going to be Nimona either. Nimona was a Netflix release, so that automatically makes people less inclined to, go for it to begin with. It didn't have the big budget marketing campaign for it that Spider-Man or Boy and the Heron did. And it's gay and trans. And as progressive as Hollywood is, there are a lot of old people who vote for these things. A lot of the Academy membership is just really old people, and they're not going to go for Nimona. So that means it's between Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and The Boy and the Heron. And if I were to pick between those two, I would pick Across the Spider-Verse. But The Boy and the Heron was directed by Miyazaki, and because of that, he's going to win this one. Leftist Al said Nimona's design was wasted on a mid-movie. I highly disagree. I really liked Nimona. In fact, I would like Nimona to win. I'd be happy with any of these winning except for Elemental, but I really would like Nimona to win. Best International Feature. Okay, I put in the work to get this one done because some of these were harder to track down than others, but I did it. I've watched them all. Yo Capitano, Perfect Days, Society of the Snow, The Teacher's Lounge, and The Zone of Interest. And, go watch my individual reviews for those movies if you want my thoughts on them. It's going to Zone of Interest. And that's also my personal pick. Although Perfect Days is actually, you know what? I'm going to switch my personal pick to Perfect Days because Perfect Days was just such a good, feel-good, wholesome, slice-of-life movie. But The Zone of Interest was so phenomenal. Zone of Interest, I might pick Zone of Interest for Best Picture altogether. But honestly, give these movies a watch. Give all of these movies a watch. Be warned with Society of the Snow because it is a film about cannibalism. And Zone of Interest, Holocaust movie, so you have to be aware that you're seeing a Holocaust movie. But honestly, if you want to just say, hey, I want to watch a nice movie, go watch Perfect Days. Oh, you'll thank me later. Quinn says, if Zone of Interest is nominated for Best Picture, it's just winning. Yeah, exactly. Like it was none of these other ones made it to Best Picture. This one made it to Best Picture as well as Best International Feature. People who are voting who aren't even going to watch any of these, they're just going to see, oh, well, it was nominated for both. Well, of course it's going to win Best International Feature. But all of these are good films. The Teacher's Lounge, I thought, had a really interesting, it was like a microcosm of society told through the lens of a school teacher trying to do the ethical thing and navigating all of the different social situations in a school. That was a really clever one. Yo Capitano, I just reviewed earlier this stream. If you're watching the segment, then my review for that probably came out like 2 days ago. Society of the Snow, I reviewed that one a little bit ago. It's a very disturbing movie because, again, it deals with people in a plane crash who are eating their dead to survive. It has a happy ending because it's based on a real story, but it is a very disturbing movie to get through. Zone of Interest is a very disturbing movie to get through, told in a phenomenal way. Like I said, it might win Best Picture, so of course it's going to win Best International Feature. Best Adapted Screenplay. Now, I haven't read any of these screenplays, obviously. I can only go based on judging the story, right? And inferring that. So we've got American Fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. And right off the bat, I don't think American Fiction is getting this one. Honestly, American Fiction surprised me with how many nominations it got. I thought it was a fun movie, but I didn't think it was anything particularly notable to merit like a bunch of Academy Awards. So I don't think this one's getting Best Adapted Screenplay. Barbie is weird that it got Adapted Screenplay and not Original Screenplay, and I think it's only been nominated as adapted because it's based on the toy line, but I feel like that's a very loose definition of adapted, right? Like, it's a pretty original story. And it's a very, very unique take on what a Barbie movie could be. So like I could definitely see this one winning. Poor Things was a remarkably devious story. I really enjoyed it. Oppenheimer, I don't think I want to give it to Oppenheimer because like I said, without Ludwig Göransson's score, it's like a B+ at best, because it is 3 hours of dudes sitting around in rooms talking. So no, I don't think it should go to Oppenheimer either. Although the way that Oppenheimer weaves the different eras into a single narrative, I'm sure a lot of that was done in the screenplay before the edit bay as well. So there is something to be said there. Like don't mistake me as saying it's not going to win for saying it doesn't deserve to be nominated. And then Zone of Interest. Zone of Interest, I think, primarily wins in the cinematography, and there's a lot of scenes that don't have dialogue. And so for best adapted screenplay, obviously screenplays are more than just dialogue, but a lot of people are going to judge them based on how good the dialogue is. And there's not a ton of dialogue in this movie. Which do I think is going to win? Honestly, that's a tough one, but I think it's going to go to Poor Things. I could be wrong on that one, but I have to make a choice. Which one do I want to win? Poor Things? Sure. I have to pick one, and if I'm not sure, I might as well pick the one that I want. Best Original Screenplay. Okay, here we go. Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives. I don't think The Holdovers should get it. I thought a lot of people were talking up The Holdovers, I think more so than it merited. Like, I thought it was a good movie, and I've mostly talked about admiring it for the lengths that they went to make it look like it was made in the 70s. Not just a period piece set in the 70s, but a film that would have been dusted off of a shelf from 1971. But it has a fairly traditional story about, like, you know, found family and self-sacrifice and stuff like that. And so I don't think this one should get Best Original Screenplay. Anatomy of a Fall, a really good movie. It's a courtroom drama, so a lot of the screenplay is going to be just in the arguments of it, but the way that the story leaves things ambiguous and tells, you know, different people's perspectives and the decisions on what details to include and what to exclude and what perspectives to show and what not to, and the choice to continue the story after the verdict is read. It's a really interesting story. Maestro. No, I don't think Maestro was going to get this one. Like I said, it was an interesting choice to visually tell the story through the eras, but in terms of the actual story itself, it feels like a pretty standard biopic. It hits all of the same beats of the biopic, where they usually skip over how the person got famous. They just were an overnight sensation or something like that, because, you know, they don't want to waste too much time on them not being the important famous person that they are. I don't think Maestro should get this one. May December. Now, this was an interesting film. It's an interesting film about not just like the kind of people who delude themselves into thinking they're not bad people as they're doing horrible things, but to really challenge the audience to consider whether that's them as well. Because the film is not just, like I said, May December is like a fictionalized version of like the Mary Kay Letourneau situation. Mary Kay Letourneau was a school teacher who, I have to use euphemisms because I don't want to get demonetized, but quote unquote seduced, not the right word, her student, and ended up in a lifelong relationship with the student even after she got out of prison and everything. They got married and everything like that. So this movie is a fictionalized version of that. The characters are changed so that they can be legally distinct, but it's a film about an actress who's going to play her in a movie. So she's spending some time with her, shadowing her to try and get a feel for her. And not only does the movie confront like the ways that she lives in denial of the horrible thing that she's done and the excuses that she makes for it, but also it is an indictment of the commodification of people's stories that Hollywood does, and how the actress, while she's not, somebody who was quote unquote seducing children, is still very much somebody who uses other people. And then Past Lives, which I just reviewed this stream, or a video probably came out yesterday if you're watching the segment on YouTube. Was a very interesting story about missed connections and paths not taken, and a very human, very kind of bittersweet story. I think out of all of those, the one that's going to win, I think it's going to be May December. But the one that I want to win is Anatomy of a Fall. And as you can tell, Anatomy of a Fall definitely got more people voting for it in the popular one. So that might weight my prediction a little off. But next up, Best Supporting Actor. We've got Sterling K. Brown in American Fiction, Robert De Niro in Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling in Barbie, Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. First up, who's not going to get it? Robert De Niro, you play the same kind of character that you always play. It's like, you're a good actor, you did a good job here, but you're kind of just playing Robert De Niro. So no, I don't think you should get it for this one. Sterling K. Brown, I had to actually go back and rethink his performance after I saw this movie, because he was nominated after I saw the film. And so I wasn't... I thought he was a very interesting character. He's, he plays the gay brother of the main character who came out as gay as an adult and is kind of like trying to catch up for lost time because he's just divorced his wife, and he's out trying to, like I said, make up for lost time. And, he's kind of living a very debaucherous lifestyle, doing lots of drugs and drinking and hooking up with guys. But he plays somebody who's like very much in like a second adolescence, and I think he did a good job with it. I don't know if it's gonna win him it. Robert Downey Jr. as Oppenheimer was phenomenal. I love Robert Downey Jr. He's definitely one of my more favorite actors, so he could get this one. Ryan Gosling seems like an obvious favorite for everybody because, Ken, but I don't actually think he's going to get this one. Like, I could be wrong here. Like, I know I'm taking a risk by saying I don't think he's going to get this one. It's a very high likelihood that he does. I just don't think he's going to be. Kareem says, I feel like this movie would break my heart as a former repressed gay man. Well, it might hit you there, but he's not really like I said, he's a side character. This is Best Supporting Actor. So, yeah, we'll see. And then Mark Ruffalo in Poor Things. He's my favorite on this list. I don't know that he's gonna win, but he's definitely my pick. I'm not gonna click that yet because I don't want the other, what everyone else is thinking, to influence my decision here. I think, like I said, Ryan Gosling has a pretty good shot at this, but I would like to think that the Academy isn't going to give it to him, and that it's going to go to Robert Downey Jr. Now I click that, and he gets 60%, but Gosling has 19%, so he's still second, but that's a pretty distant second, so okay. But my personal pick is Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo plays a hilariously despicable character in Poor Things, and he was just a delight to watch the entire film. Robert Downey Jr. would be another good feel-good moment like last year. What do you mean like last year? I don't think I watched the Oscars last year. I'm doing it this year because, well, I'm a movie channel now, so I want to. But anyway, we're moving on to Best Supporting Actress. We have Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple, America Ferrera in Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. And I'm going to say right off the bat that America Ferrera is nominated for screenwriting. And no, she's not the screenwriter. I'm saying the reason she has been nominated for this spot is because of the contradictions of being a woman speech that she gives in the movie. And I think she delivers that speech fine for an actress, but I really think what people were latching onto in that speech was the words of the speech. And I think in that case, I don't think she rose to Best Supporting Actress level with this. So no, I don't think she's gonna get this one. Danielle Brooks in The Color Purple. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why she's here. That movie was entirely forgettable. For God's sake, that movie had Coleman Domingo in it, who's a really good actor who I think is nominated for best actor for a different film here. And like, he was probably the most memorable actor in that movie, and I don't even think he would deserve it for that one. So, The Color Purple, sorry. Jodie Foster in Nyad, also no. Nyad has been nominated for Best Supporting Actress and Best Actress, and I think Best Actress has a better shot at it, but Jodie Foster in Nyad was just playing a Jodie Foster type. And if you're an actor who's known for playing a certain type, and then you just play that type, and then you get nominated for it, like, I don't think, like I said with De Niro before, like, no. I want to see somebody become somebody else in a performance, right? So that leaves us with Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer and Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. And I liked Emily Blunt's performance in Oppenheimer, but too often the Oscars for Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress are going to the long-suffering wife of the main character. And I feel like we need better than that. And while she definitely has more to it than just the long-suffering wife of Oppenheimer, that is still kind of the trope that her character is built around. Divine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers is, I think, far and away the audience favorite for it. She played a really good, relatable, and tragic character who's, you know, just, yeah, and like you see, the audience agrees with me. 60% picks her. So Quinn says the Academy goes crazy for suffering women in period pieces. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like I said, Divine Joy Randolph, she seems like the best pick, and she's also going to be my personal pick for it. Next up, we've got Best Actor, and we've got 5 nominees, of course. We've got Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright in American Fiction. And just to cross him off the list, Jeffrey Wright's not winning this one. It was a fun movie, it was fine, but he did not deliver any kind of stellar performance in it. He delivered a pretty standard Jeffrey Wright performance, which is good. I like Jeffrey Wright, but when you're nominated for Best Actor or Best Actress, I'm looking for something with a little je ne sais quoi. I'm looking for something with a little bit more. I'm looking for somebody who disappeared into the role. Which is also why I don't think Paul Giamatti is going to get it, because Paul Giamatti played a very Paul Giamatti character. He played him with heart. I like Paul Giamatti. I like Paul Giamatti characters. But I don't think he brought anything new to it that we haven't seen from him before. So that leaves us with Bradley Cooper, Coleman Domingo, and Cillian Murphy. And I'll be real, Cillian Murphy, all 3 of these have a pretty good shot at it. Actually, I think Coleman Domingo probably has a lesser shot than Cillian Murphy or Bradley Cooper. Even though both Coleman Domingo and Bradley Cooper are nominated for Netflix films, Rustin didn't get the kind of Oscar buzz that Maestro did. And the only thing that Rustin was nominated for was Coleman Domingo's performance. It's a really good performance. I highly recommend people watch it, but I don't think Coleman Domingo is going to get this one, which means it's between Cillian Murphy and Bradley Cooper. And Cillian Murphy really became Oppenheimer. Like, you watch archival footage of Oppenheimer, and Cillian Murphy, like, he studied that endlessly. Like, he probably dreams the footage of Oppenheimer. But I don't think that's all that there is to being an actor. He keeps that cadence the entire film, and, like, that's not generally how people actually talk. Like, Oppenheimer, in that interview that everyone's pulling things from, you know, the thing where he talks very haunted, like, he turns that into the entire film, him talking that way. And for that reason, I don't think there was enough dynamic range for it. Bradley Cooper, on the other hand, not only became Leonard Bernstein, but he destroyed Bradley Cooper. Like, I do not see Bradley Cooper in this film. And now, unfortunately, part of that is that he's wearing a fake nose. But even if he wasn't wearing the makeup, I have never seen Bradley Cooper do a performance anywhere close to what he gave in Maestro. Completely disappeared into the part. And so not only do I think he's going to win Best Actor, he's my pick for Best Actor. And you can see that the audience clearly favors Cillian Murphy, but also most people who are voting here saw Oppenheimer and didn't see Maestro. And I have to consider that, yes, Cillian Murphy has a really good shot at winning this one because Oppenheimer, but I still think Bradley Cooper deserves this one. Best Actress. Now, this one I did a video on earlier because a lot of people were upset that Margot Robbie was not nominated for this one. Margot Robbie has been nominated for, I think, 3 in the past. Let me double check. Margot Robbie has been nominated for, let's go on Wikipedia. Let's see. Academy Awards, Best Actress in 2018 for I, Tonya, Best Supporting Actress in 2020 for Bombshell, and I guess she was a producer on Barbie, so she's still up for an Academy Award for Best Picture if she's one of the executive producers on the film. So, you know, Margot Robbie still could get one, but a lot of people were very upset that she was not nominated for Best Actress. And to that I say, she'll have another opportunity. Like, she has her choice of project for the next 10 years. And not everybody else on this list has that opportunity. Now, crossing out right away, Carey Mulligan. It's my complaints before the trope of the long-suffering wife of the famous lead character whose hubris leads them to neglect their family. That's what Carey Mulligan plays to a T. She's fine at it, but it wasn't anything that really stood out to me. It's not even Carey Mulligan's best work, let's be honest. Honestly, I think playing Sally Sparrow in Doctor Who was a better performance from her than this movie. So no, she doesn't get this one. And that's not shade on Sally Sparrow. I like that episode of Doctor Who. I really like Blink. It's one of the best episodes, and I think Carey Mulligan did a great job in it. So we've got Annette Bening in Nyad, and she does a really good job transforming herself into an asshole. And I might say that there's something there, but I don't think she's going to win. Just because of the other competition, and not a lot of people saw Nyad. But also, like, Nyad has some issues with the veracity of the storytelling, because it's talking about a woman who claims to be the first to ever swim from Cuba to Miami, despite 3 other people having done it before. Like I said, watch my Nyad review if you're curious more on the details of that. She did a great job in this film. Fantastic job in this film. Honestly, I'm surprised this film didn't get nominated for Best Makeup. But yeah, I don't think she's winning this one. Which means we've got Sandra Huller, Emma Stone, and Lily Gladstone. And if you watched my review of Killers of the Flower Moon with Demon Mama, this was something that I said in that review, and something that I also said to Demon Mama as we were walking out of the theater, that Lily Gladstone is going to win this Oscar, but that I didn't necessarily think that she deserved to. And my opinion on that has changed. Not that she's not going to win the Oscar. These performances are fantastic. I still think Lily Gladstone's going to win it. But not just that. I've changed my mind on whether I want her to win, and I want her to win. No shade to Sandra Huller in Anatomy of a Fall. She did a fantastic job. Emma Stone, you easily also deserve this one. Your job in Poor Things was fantastic. But there was one thing. Lily Gladstone is really good in this movie. And on top of that, it was her response when asked by a reporter about how she felt about being the first Native American woman to be nominated for Best Actress. And her response was, "This is our land. Why did it take us 96 years?" And the Oscars, especially for the larger awards like Best Actress, the Oscars are a great opportunity for people to give really good speeches. And I really want to see what Lily Gladstone has to say when she accepts that Oscar. Emma Stone, if you win this one, I won't be upset either. You were phenomenal. But Lily Gladstone, let's give this one to you. Let's see what happens there. Leftist Alice says, Lily Gladstone was so good you could see the gears turning in her head in nearly every scene. Oh, she played it very well. The reason that I thought that she shouldn't get it was because a lot of her role was literally just lying around in bed being sick. And so I didn't think she had been given enough material to be meritorious of the nomination, but honestly, I think that's like a minor gripe at this point. Yeah, we'll see. Kirim fears of a snub. It's possible. Emma Stone very well could cinch this one. Interestingly, Sandra Huller, she's nominated for Anatomy of a Fall, but she was also in the Zone of Interest. And I can understand why she would be nominated for this one and not Zone of Interest, just because, you know, she was the main character in Anatomy of a Fall, and she was the wife of the main character, although she's a pretty prominent character as well. But also, like, I don't think anybody's winning awards for acting in Zone of Interest because so much of the film takes such a detached view of the people, because it's like locked down cameras, fly on the wall, distant perception of everyone. It tries not to get you too much into people's heads or too close to them. And so because of that, you're not getting as full enriching a performance from actors. Like, they aren't getting close-up shots where they can really show their chops. So it doesn't surprise me that nobody was nominated for Best Actor for that film. And I don't think that's a negative on the film. It's just a reality of the way that film was made doesn't lend itself well to actors getting accolades for it. We've got Best Director, Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Interestingly, I found out that Jonathan Glazer directed the that famous music video for Jamiroquai, Virtual Insanity, the one where the couches are moving around on the ground the entire time. So yeah, he went from that to a Holocaust movie. That's quite interesting. We've got Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall. And I don't think Justine Triet is going to win this one. I'm not going to click over here yet, but she is my personal pick, specifically because when it comes to gender representation in Hollywood, it's so skewed male in the director's chair. It's so skewed male in the director's chair that I think we need to see more accolades given to women, specifically to get that more in balance. And also, she directed a fantastic film, and she wove a really good story. I don't think she's going to win. So who among these four is going to win? There's obvious arguments for any single one of them. Oppenheimer has, I think, the most nominations, or like Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think, are tied for most nominations, maybe. So I think it's probably a very high likelihood that it's Christopher Nolan, but I also think Yorgos Lanthimos might cinch this one. It's really hard. Like, honestly, any of these directors would deserve it. So I kind of just have to go with who do I think the Academy is going to pick. And out of all of these, it seems most likely that it's going to be Nolan. So we'll pick Nolan, and the audience tends to agree, 72%. But I'm going to say I want Justine Triet to win. And here we are, the final pick. If you want my detailed thoughts on these films, I have reviewed all of them. And when this video goes out as its own segment, I will have linked in the description a playlist of all of this year's Academy Award nominated films, so you can see my reviews for all of them. So I'm not going to go too in detail into every single one of these films, because I've already done so multiple times, but we've got American Fiction, Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, Past Lives, and The Zone of Interest. Okay, who do I think is going to win this one? I'll start by crossing people off that aren't going to win it. I don't think it's going to be The Holdovers. I don't think it's going to be Past Lives. I don't think it's going to be American Fiction. I think those are all good films, but especially American Fiction, out of all of these, I would say is the weakest. So it's not going to be any of those. I don't think it's going to be Maestro. I think the biggest achievement from Maestro is the cinematography and Bradley Cooper's performance. But other than that, it's a pretty bog standard biopic. So I don't think it's going to be Maestro. The obvious choice would be Oppenheimer, but also the Oscars really love Holocaust movies. I know that sounds messed up to say, but like, they really love their Holocaust movies. And so for that reason, out of all of these are all really good movies. I think it's going to The Zone of Interest. Now, obviously, Oppenheimer is a very high likelihood of getting it as well, but I'm going to make the risky call and predict that it's going to be Zone of Interest that wins. Who do I want to win? Poor Things. Poor Things, easily one of the best films that I saw last year. I can't recommend it enough. But pretty much everything here was really good. You should see all of these films. Those are my predictions. And if you want to find out with me which ones I got right and which ones I got horribly wrong, the Oscars are this Sunday, and I can't live stream them because, I'll get immediately copyright taken, but I can watch them on my Discord. So we've got an event this Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific. That's when the Oscars start. I am going to be doing a special Discord stage event. I will be recording it on OBS so that I might turn it into a segment later, but come join my Discord. The link is in the description of this VOD or of this video. And join the Discord, hang out with me. We will watch the Oscars together. We'll throw popcorn at the screen. We'll get mad. We'll complain about who they picked to present the awards. And I don't know, maybe we'll have another Will Smith moment. Wouldn't that be fun? So anyway, those are my predictions. If you want to watch it with me, join the Discord, and we'll all watch it together this Sunday. Hey, thanks for watching. Your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell. And drop a comment below telling me what you thought of the video. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patrons Ryan D and James Knight, and my Anemone Friend tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.